You are now entering the Thick Goddess Energy Morning Show. We in the building. High priestess in the building, didn't let my fears kill me. Transmuted my pain in that cleanse in the rain. Found out I was working and I conquered my demons. I accepted my purpose and the goddess I became. All right, we are live. All right. Good morning. As those notifications start rolling out. This is Thick Goddess Energy Morning Show. I am your host, Divine Moon Goddess, and I have my lovely special guest, Raquel, who is the creator of Life a la Rocsi. I think I'm saying it right this morning.
Yeah.
I was like, if I don't get it, I'm getting the little bit of Spanish card that I have left is going to be gone.
You got it. You got it right. Life a la Rocsi.
All right. So we're going to be getting into it in a moment. I know I'm kind of let the notifications go out. Good morning. Good morning. We're late, but I never feel that we're late because right now it's 9:33 on the clock, and that says a lot to me. Spirit message in hand. So we are right on time. We definitely have some. We're going to be talking about her life, of course, in her journey, which I have been. She's been watching me, but she doesn't realize I've been watching her.
I
It's
realize
funny. It's
it.
funny how that happens, right? Where it's like you don't really realize that people do watch and people are watching you or seeing your kind of road or kind of path since from when you came. And I can't remember when you came around. I really don't remember how long it's been. I know it's been a minute.
I think about 2 years,
Yeah,
something like that.
it's been a while. It's been a while because you've been here since really like the beginning, almost the beginning of my journey, which is crazy. Um, Good morning, so bad. I am still doing pretty good on my diet. I did kind of not been to the gym. I'll be honest, that's why you haven't seen my post about the gym, but I am going today because I have been super busy trying to transform my home. And that has taken all of my mental faculty to do so. We were just talking about that of me organizing my home and trying to get everything, just throw out stuff and get rid of stuff and just really, really like come into 2022 balanced and organized was my plan. So I have been really going through every nook and cranny of my house, and I only have a little bit more to go before the end of the week, and I'm done, complete. Everything is in a place in a home. Good morning, you guys. Can you see the comments at all or no?
I was just looking at my other phone to start seeing the comments. I'm trying to see
Okay.
if I can figure this out.
So she has she has her YouTube channel, and I do have her Facebook and I have her YouTube channel in the description. Should you guys decide to go check her out. One of the things I want to start with you is you started your YouTube just as this place of sharing your family videos with family. And then let's talk about that because then it just runs. So what happened with the YouTube and what was the kind of the idea behind that?
Okay. I real quick, I just want to say thank you to you before I get into my story because I absolutely love you and
Oh,
I really, really love the platform and the environment that you offer to everybody. It's like a very welcoming and some place where you could get spiritual knowledge, and I just really want to say thank you to you and all your audience before I get into me.
thank
Um,
you.
so with YouTube, basically I was a single mom already, and my first son's father had passed away by that time. So I just had in my mind, like, if anything ever happens to me, I want some memories out there for my kids to, remember me by, or my grandkids or anything like that. And then, all this knowledge that I have or this advice that I have for my kids, I don't want it to be lost anywhere, and then I love family moments. So YouTube just was like all in one answered prayer, kind of, to
Right,
be able to share family memories with relatives and friends that were, long distance in Puerto Rico or whatnot. And then just to have that out in the world where, God forbid, anything happens to me before time,
right,
the
right,
future generations could kind of see, oh, look at that was our grandma, that's our great grandma, she's kind of smart, or look at our family members, and
right.
so I think YouTube was just like really, really cool, really, really cool.
Right. It definitely is a place where you can build a platform and kind of bring your voice to life. Um, Definitely, I do agree with that. So I've been just kind of watching and seeing you kind of doing your thing. And I love it because it's not just, it is some funny videos, though. I have to say, some of the shit you guys post is like funny shit that you guys do as a family together. But I think it inspires people on so many levels with their children. And there is a lot of like, help in knowledge that you bring, just tips of parenting, because single motherhood is not easy because you have multiple children. You don't just have one child, you have multiple children, correct?
Yeah, I have four, two boys and two girls.
So how was because we're going to get into that of losing your person and of the father of your children, and then how does that, how do you come back from that? Because a lot of people don't come back from that very easily, and a lot of people go to a very dark place, and I'm pretty sure you've had to fight that part of you, but to still, and we're going to talk about still choosing God and being spiritual, because that's been something I've seen you hold on to and not waver, which is beautiful. But how did you do that? What, besides your children, because I know our children give us that inspiration, but besides that, what kept you from losing your shit completely, basically?
Well, it's not that hard to lose your shit in this crazy ass world. I think it's kind of easy to lose your
Right,
shit.
right.
Um, and I like to focus on the cup half full instead of half empty. That's why I try to do like happy videos and capture the happy moments and stuff like that most of the time. I do have a lot of other videos like in my phone and iCloud that I haven't uploaded yet, so they're coming soon. Somebody might see my YouTube and be like, "There's not too much on there, but it's coming." So please stay around. Um, as far as my kids, it's a crazy long story. I'm gonna try to make it short and sweet. Um, I actually didn't know it, but I manifested my kids. Oh, I lost my mic. I manifested them because when I was in eighth grade, my teacher had us write a a page, and she asked us what we wanted in our life, and she said be detailed, like how many kids, what do you want to do with yourself,
Okay.
stuff like that. And I can't remember everything, but I know that I said, because my thought process was like, okay, I just want two kids, a boy and a girl. And then I was like, no, scratch that, because the boy's gonna need a brother and the girl's gonna need a sister. So I want two boys and two girls. And then I wrote specifically, like, I want the boys to be born first so that they could be the security guards, and
Oh.
then the girls to be born. And then I put in there, and I, looking back, like, you gotta be careful what you wish for, right? Because I put in there
Right.
that I want, because I was really into Disney. I had all the whole collection of Walt Disney, right? And all the princess stories and everything. So I put in there that I wanted a crazy romance story, like a
Oh,
crazy out this world story, so that I could have, a good story.
right.
And I got
And you
that.
got it.
I got that. So with my son's father, he's that passed away, he wasn't the father of all my children. He's the father of my firstborn.
Mm,
So it's just crazy. It's a crazy, crazy story. Um, I was born into a family where I was really sheltered, and I was the firstborn of my parents, but they had older children.
okay.
So like my older siblings, they were like in high school and they got to do whatever they wanted, and they had a different upbringing than I did. So when I was 18, I decided I wanted to get loose and leave the house,
Right.
right? Mom was very upset. My mom even like punched me. But
Wow.
that's a whole other story.
Right.
um, so I left the house, even though God was telling me, and the Holy Spirit was telling me, like, don't do it, don't do it. There's gonna be consequences to this. And I still left the house, and I got into this relationship with my son's father, and he was a good guy. Like, he had a big heart, and I love him dearly, you know. But he was living this life where, it's like kind of gang banging and hustling
Mm-mm.
and getting money, the only way he knew how, because of his upbringing
Right. Right.
and stuff like that. And I'm literally gonna write a book because the story is way too long for this live.
Right.
But going to when he passed away, I thank God that things happen. Like, I don't believe in coincidences.
Right.
So we had argued 3 days before he passed away, and he mentioned something about, what do you think happens when we die? Do you think we get reincarnated? Or think we come back like as a dog or something? And I was like, don't talk about that. Like, why are you even talking about that? I don't want to talk about that. And then we argued, and then I went to stay with my father for 3 days, and he was doing his thing. So I think it was like the night before he came, and he wanted to see the baby, but the baby was sleeping. So I just talked to him out the window, and he was upset because I didn't want to let him up. Okay, I'm getting beside the point. So then I went to work the next day, and I talked to him. He called me, and he was like, I miss you. I want to make up with you. I'm tired of being, separated from you. Can I take you and the baby to Chuck E. Cheese tomorrow? Can we talk? And I said, yeah, I miss you too. I would like that. I hung up and I went to work. I was working at a UPS, like night shift and shipping and
Right.
stuff. Anyways, come to find out, 8 minutes after I hung up with him, he was shot 9 times and killed. And the way that we know the exact time was because the police were on the next block, and when the shots were fired, they put it down on their report. So when I saw the time, I was like, wow, it was 8 minutes after I talked to him.
Wow.
So we didn't, leave off on a argumentative kind of level or vibe. You know what I'm saying? He
Right.
actually called and told me that he loved me, he missed me, he wanted to, so I felt good about that.
Right.
So that was like one. I have a lot of different life experiences that make me know that I know that I know that God is real.
Right.
Like the thing, like the coincidences. So that was one thing that happened where it just gave me like a sense of peace. Like when I first found out, I was at work and my manager was like, you got a phone call from your mom. And I'm like, what? And they're like, hey, we're going to pick you up. I'm like, I'm at work. What do you mean you're going to pick me up? What's
Right.
going on? The first thing I was like, is my son okay? They're like, yeah, your son's okay. I'm like, is Terrell okay? They're like, I'll tell you when I see you. They didn't want to say anything. So I was
Yeah.
like, I knew. And then when I finally got the news, like I got out the car and they told me, my knees just gave out on me. I remember I was like on a hill and I was walking up the hill and I was like, Tara! And it was like something spiritual, like I could feel
Right.
something crazy. So yeah, that was my experience. And then later on, I kind of felt something rub my back, and I kind of felt like that was him a little
Yeah.
bit.
Oh.
Yeah, and
You're definitely always there, right?
yeah, and then I didn't go to his grave until like, maybe over 10 years later,
Wow.
right? So then we finally went to his grave, and I brought plastic flowers, like the fake flowers, so that they
Yeah.
wouldn't die. And we put him on the grave or whatnot. And then like a month or two later, And I've never asked to speak to a medium or
Right.
anything like that. Like things just happen by coincidence.
Mhm.
So about a month later, there was Oracle. Oh, what's her name? Oracle of Apollo, I think her name is, and she was on a StreamYard show. Lauren Harris, I think you
Mhm.
know him too. So I just so happened to pop up on the live, and she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna channel and do her thing," and then I just was like commenting like I'm here, making it known, and I was
Right.
willing to receive whatever.
Right.
So he came through, and I was freaking out because at first I was like not believing it, right? And he
Right.
said, "Oh, she came and she put plastic flowers on my grave from the house." I
Wow.
started bawling.
Because you
I
can't
was
make that shit up. You can't
no,
make that shit up.
I was like, "Oh my god. Oh my
Right.
god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god." I just started crying and crying and crying and crying. It was crazy.
Right.
So,
So that definitely changes how you see stuff in spirituality, like mediumship. Because a lot of people, of course, look at it like it's fake. There are a lot of fake people in the business, unfortunately, like every business, right? There's phonies. But that moment is like, oh shit, this is real. They are here. They are around, you know?
well, for me, it wasn't more fake. It was more like religious blocks because a lot of people like stay away from that. That's satanic. Like people speaking
Right.
to the dead is satanic, and you don't want to allow those spirits around you and stuff like that. And for a long time, I kind of believed that. I was like, stay away from that, stay away from that. But as I grow more in God, I'm starting to realize, and God gave me a scripture in the Bible because I always have my Bible. Like, look at this Bible. This Bible is like 20 years old. Um, he gave me a scripture. It's in Ephesians something, and it says that as long as the person, like, because in the old times when Moses like parted the water and made his stick into a snake and stuff like that, that was considered like holy, and that's Moses and stuff like that. But the more time went on, like you were a witch. If you did any kind of magic or anything,
Right.
you're a witch. You got to be burned at the stake and all this. And I'm
Right.
like, there's no in between. It's only black
Right.
and white. What happened to the rainbow? There's so many
Right.
levels and so many different
Missing.
perceptions.
A lot of
Right.
missing information.
Yeah. So I'm a thinker. So I'm always thinking, and um yeah, and I forgot the question. Where was I going with this?
No, just because one of the things, and we were gonna go into that anyway, because even though you're very spiritual, but you do talk about God, and I know God is a trigger for a lot of people in spirituality, and we've talked about this on a couple shows because most people going into spirituality are hurting. They're looking for answers, and they've kind of renounced God. Like most people going into spirituality are just like, I'm done with religion and God because they're hurt, they're mad, and so you found a way to not just break away completely, but also hold on to your belief system, but still expand.
Right, that's where I was going. So I pray, and then I'll be like, God, give me a message towards what I'm praying about. And I'll open my Bible to a random page, and
Mhm.
the message will resonate with me. So that's why I was
Right.
going with the Ephesians something. I wish I could remember the exact thing, but it says something about where it's not all bad to speak to
Mhm.
someone who is spiritually gifted, as
Right.
long as they have the same belief system as you, as in the Bible it says, as long as they believe in Jesus, that Jesus is God's child, and
Right.
he did come as a plan of God, to like save the world. And my
Right.
father and I get into this all the time because there's there's religions that are like black and white. They're really, really, they have a lot of rules and stuff like that, and
Right.
it reminds me of a game that we used to play in school where at the back you have like 30 kids, and then you say something in somebody's ear, and then they got to whisper it, and by the time it
Uh-huh.
gets to the front it's totally different.
Right.
So
Right.
that's what religion is like to me, and I don't consider myself a religious person. I consider myself having a relationship with our creator.
Right.
And when I
Right.
say God, I mean our creator, because
Right.
I believe we have a creator, and I have a relationship with him as far as I talk to him every
Right.
day. Like just like I call my mom or my sisters or my friends on the phone, I call on him every day. And sometimes it's hard to do that because we'll just forget about it
Right.
and we won't even think about talking to our creator. We're just trying to deal with everything on our own. And
Right.
it's funny how if you just tap into that and ask, like knocking the door will be open to you, you know?
Right.
That's where the whole manifesting and thing like that happens. And it's all the same thing, like manifestation, prayer, like it's just different words. God, creator, spirit,
Right.
Holy
Source,
Spirit.
all of the shit.
Yeah, it's all the same thing. It's just people judge so much. Like, oh, don't say that word. You know, you got to say
Right.
this word.
Right.
But I believe it's our intentions. Only God could judge, and only God
Right.
knows our hearts.
Right.
So
Right.
if I'm using like a crystal or something, my intention will be, I know God made this crystal, like our creator made this crystal, and
Right.
our creator is so awesome that he has this crystal, and it's a gratitude of our creator. Not the power's not in the crystal per
Right.
se, the power's in that the creator can use this crystal, and our intentions of being good hearted too. I
Right.
think intentions are really, 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 really
Oh yeah.
important
Oh
with
hell yeah.
everything that we do.
Hands down, intention is everything. Becky said to use I want to say that's the King James Version Bible or the newer kind.
And this is the NIV. This Bible, I love this Bible. You could tell. I love this Bible.
One
But
of
I
the things
also have your
she
Universal
she
Guide
is
by
rocking
Divine
the
Moon
Divine Moon
Goddess,
Goddess
my
or
first
co-signers.
and only card deck, which these are cool because again, religious blocks. Like I got this. I think I
Right.
yeah, I bought these and then I didn't use them for a while because I'm like scared a little bit. Like, oh my
Right.
God,
Right.
what am I gonna and what am I tapping into? Like, I'm not gonna do it. But what I did to make myself feel better, I just put it on my Bible and I prayed over them. And I was like, Lord, I know you can use this. If you use other stuff, like you
Right.
could use this. And I have good intentions. I believe in you, God, and I know that I'm
Right.
so it's just like your belief system, your
Right.
intentions. There's another side story, and if I'm getting off topic, just let me know.
You're good. You're good.
But one time, I live in an apartment building, and everything was nice and peaceful. But one time, this young lady moved into the house next door, and she obviously had mental issues, and she was arguing with all the neighbors, and she would wear like real provocative stuff and just say all types of crazy stuff. And my father comes around a lot to help me, so he came and he parked in the back like usual, and she comes out there, who are you, why are you parking here, who?
Hmm.
And I'm sometimes I have to control my temper, especially when you catch me in the wrong time, and I try to work with that. So I can't, and I'm very protective with my family, especially my father.
Right.
So I'm like, excuse me, who are you? And I got into an argument with her. So, and then I saw something on your lives where it was like a full moon, and you mentioned something about writing something down on a paper or or
Releasing.
or something like that. So, and I still had my religious blocks up. So I'm like, I kind of want to do this, but I kind of don't. Like, I don't want to be messing with people, and I don't know. And yeah, you were saying not to mess with people, but you were like, just like procrastination, like stuff that you want to get rid of, like stuff
Uh-huh.
like that. But I made it into something else in my own brain. So I put two and two together, and I found out her name, and I put her name on a piece of paper, and I prayed over her. And I was just like, Lord, I am too stressed out. I cannot deal with this lady. Please remove her from
Right.
my life. Like, please put her in a better place than she is right now. I
Right.
want good things for her. I want her to have a renewing of her mind and for her to be better. But just not around me because I can't deal with, I'm dealing with too much right now. I cannot deal with her right now.
Right.
Please. And I wrote her name and I like burned it and flushed it down the toilet. Like it wasn't exactly what you said. You said put it in water, but I was like, the toilet has water and I don't all believe, so it's whatever I believe
Like,
in. God is
throw it down the toilet.
but my point is God can use anything. Like if you have good intentions and
Right,
you
right,
believe,
right.
like, girl, do you know? And then I said something told me to put a time on it so that I could know. Like I heard a voice say, put a
Right,
time on it.
right, right,
So I was like, okay, in 3 days. And furthermore, I don't want to see her in the next 3 days. It's okay if I hear her voice yelling, because, but I
right,
don't want to see her. And in 3 days, I want her gone.
right.
Do you know this? Like the second day, I was coming up the alley in my car and going up the stairs, and I heard her yelling, but I didn't see her. And I was like, okay, okay.
Uh-huh.
On the third day, I get up in the morning to let my dogs out, and there's a car there taking all her stuff out and saying that she's moving out, and she was nowhere to be found. It was just two
Wow.
guys moving her stuff, and I was like, it
Right.
worked. On the third day, it freaking worked,
Right,
and I didn't feel anything like I did anything bad
right.
or anything because I prayed good things for her. You know.
Exactly, exactly. People don't realize when you're manifestation or when you're manifesting, right? When we're doing it, you can't do it in a selfish way. That's where people mess up. If you do it in a selfish way or in a harmful way, or your intention behind it is like self-serving, not going to come through for you, not going to happen for you, because everything that I've built like my practice on is been based on, is it good for everyone? Who does it help when this comes through? So anything that I manifest, even moving up in my position, I don't know if you call this a position or not, right? Even moving up where I'm at, it's like, how does this help everyone? Or how does this help the people around me? Not just myself to do good and be wealthy, but how does this help others? And so if you do it in that way, you stay blessed. And I believe that wholeheartedly, you stay blessed, because even like that, where someone is driving you fucking insane, right? But if you do it with the way like, I want this person to do good. I don't want this person to do bad. I want this person to do good. But if they're not for my life and they're not for me, remove them. And I've actually said that before on the moon energy, like remove the people who no longer serve your life to bring that peace. And you'll be surprised that boom, oh shit, there goes that person. All right. And I've just come to be like, all right, they're not meant to be here, bye-bye.
Yeah,
I used to do that though. I used to do the full moon lives, and I used to do just right. I would have everyone on the live. What do you want to get rid of? What do you want to get rid of? And it's just like procrastination and this and that, and
I
but
got rid of a whole person. My
and it's
first
funny
time
that
trying.
it's funny that not only did you do it that way in a loving way, because that is the right way to do it. That's the proper way. It's not being mad at someone and be like, fuck this person, I can't stand them, I hope they die type shit, because watch your words. What you put out there is what you get back, okay? But
Mhm.
you did it in a way to like, I just help this person, but away from me.
And a lot of people can't step up to that level.
Right,
Like they're stuck in the being angry and
right,
they're like, just get this person the fuck away from me, God,
right,
please, and they leave
right,
it like that. And it doesn't happen like that because you
right.
really have to have a pure heart,
You do. You
you have to
do.
have a pure heart.
That heart space is everything, and I can't say that enough. Your heart space is everything, and so is that intention. You can put on the mask for everyone else, but one thing regardless if you say God or creator, you can't lie to that energy. That energy sees all. And so I think people forget that. People forget because we're so into the 3D, and you think you're just getting by, but your intentions say it all. And it's like you can't hide from that. So what you put out, I believe wholeheartedly you'll get it back. So when your life starts to go to shit, I do believe in law of attraction, which is what you put out, you get. A lot of people, we sit in victim mode, like, why me, poor me, you know. Yes, there are some things that I think just happen, but I do think a lot of it is what we put out. And you don't realize that maybe years ago you put something out that's coming back to you now that you got to deal with. And so that's where you're supposed to just be like, okay, in this moment, this is happening. Let's just work through it and kind of come back to that neutral mode, and instead of being like, oh my God, why me? So one of the things I like is that even though you came from the religious background, and that's where a lot of people get stuck. Like me, for I was very triggered with the word God for a long time because I lost my daughter at 15. And so I was just like, there is no God. You know, you lose a child at 15, very hard to see in what everyone else sees and have that where you can believe again. Because it was like, how could someone take away, this beautiful child from me? But then you had these shitty mothers with their babies that they weren't taking care of. And it's like, but this child is being harmed over here. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it. So I was very triggered throughout like my whole life with like fuck religion and all that. But I don't have those triggers anymore. Why? I've healed. Once you heal, it doesn't make you mad anymore to hear it. You're not mad at creator energy anymore. You're not mad at I just don't use it because I know it's a trigger with a lot of people. So I stray away from using it because I know it does trigger. In my line of work, you kind of have to try to bring people in. So you kind of use those words to bring them in, not have them run away. So but it does a lot of people, especially in spirituality. So I like that even through everything in transitioning, opening yourself up to what you thought was bad or demonic, and allowing yourself to just connect on something that you feel is right. It's not wrong. You feel like you're like, this is not all bad. Are there bad people? Yeah, but it's not all bad. One of the things I tell people about when it comes to spell work and tarot and all this, it was for centuries kept in the dark, kept as secrets. Even when we look at our backgrounds, our backgrounds and our nationalities, they had to do their rituals in secret. There's a reason why they had to do it in secret. It's not because it's demonic. It was secret because of the slave trade, and it was secret because of the Spanish or Europeans that came in and kind of took over. So that's where it comes from, where it's all sneaky in the dark. Our ancestors had to like sneak and go through it. Um, are you you're good? You can hear? No, I can't hear you if you're talking. Well, okay, she'll be back. So Lorianne says, I think she'll be back. Her thing messed up. I have to say that I am spiritual and I pray to God, but I don't believe in religion because, like you said, it's a man-made rules, lots of rules, and I feel we all have to find our own path. I believe in God, but I also speak to the universe and angels and my ancestors. Um, Becky says, I usually try to find a natural stream creek that is flowing away from me. I like that you go and find water because water actually is that conduit. Water is cleansing. So a river, a ocean, a bath, you could go in any of those. She's back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry.
Um, Lorianne said, yes, Divine. I have learned so much by watching your lives and learning so much in my learning journey. I never do things for selfish reasons. I think about my intentions are going to cause an effect. I ask Spirit to guide me away from the negative energy from my roommate or block it from affecting me. And I also ask to guide me to a job that was meant for me to be in. I got an internship at a hospital in Tennessee starting next month. See, look at that. You
Nice.
know, it really is. And I know, like I said, regardless to if you guys believe in the term God or creator, my thing is I would tell people I don't believe in the God that you believe in. And that would kind of stump people because most people have God sitting on the throne, looking down at us, mad as pissed off and mad at us for shit, right? And if we don't bow down to the religious term of it, then we don't believe. And a lot of people would that part when they would say, like, if you don't believe in Jesus, like you're going to hell. And that was my biggest thing when I was younger, because I would be like, so you mean to tell me if I'm a good person and I help people and I'm loving and kind, that just because I don't believe in Jesus, I'm going to hell?
Yeah, I had trouble with that too. I had trouble with that too. And my father he's a certified pastor. So we get into these discussions because he's old school and he's like, no, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Like, if you don't
Right,
believe in Jesus, you're going to, hell. And
right,
I'm like, okay, but time out. Time
right,
out. Because there's people in the world that have never even heard of Jesus.
Right.
They don't even know about Jesus. And
Right.
then people like my father, they're like, no, everyone has
Right.
heard about Jesus. God will make a way for everybody in the world to hear about Jesus
No.
before they die. And I'm like, well, maybe now that the internet is popping,
Right.
maybe you'll have a chance. But back in the day, like a couple of
Yeah.
years ago, there was people who did not hear about it. So I don't believe God just
Right.
sends them to hell because they never heard about
Right.
Jesus.
Well,
I
that was my
believe,
other point. The other point of it was, so you mean to tell me that someone living across the world who's never heard of Jesus, who's never heard of Christianity, who's never, they've been raised to believe whatever they've been raised, they're going to go to hell because they were born in a different time and space?
yeah,
I
that
don't believe
didn't
that.
sit well with me either.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of a battle with me during
Right.
my spiritual journey too, because by the time I have four baby daddies. Ouch. By the time I was with my fourth baby daddy, he was trying to like instill Muslim beliefs in me
Right.
and Allah. And then at the same time, my nephew too, he got into Allah. My cousin got into
Right.
Allah. So I was like being bombarded with pulling this way and that way because
Right.
they say that Christians, they just do whatever, and Muslims, they're real strict.
Right.
So like which one is better and this and that. So I had four C-sections, right?
Wow.
And on on my on my third C-section, I had to get the epidural, and they went in wrong the first time, and they had to put it in the second time, right? So that like gave me anxiety for my fourth C-section. So my fourth C-section was with my fourth baby daddy with all this Islam stuff and Muslim stuff, right? So I was confused, and I was about to get the epidural to get my fourth C-section, and the nurse, that because they have you hunch back like this and hold a pillow, and
Right.
then there's a nurse in front of you, and the nurse that was in front of me had a necklace with the symbol of Allah on her necklace. So I was looking at that, and I was like, okay, is this like God's sign? Because I was telling the people, like, the last time there was an accident and they had to go in twice. So, and it was because I let the student anesthesiologist do
Oh,
it.
yeah.
So I don't want the student anymore. I want the teacher. And they were
Right.
like, oh, it's gonna be okay. There's another student, but the teacher's right here and it'll be okay. And I was like really reluctant. I was like, I just told you what happened last
Right.
time, and they weren't listening to me. So they did it, and they messed up, and they had to go in the second time. And I'm looking at this thing of Allah on her chain, and I'm like, I'm all these thoughts are going in my head, like, what's the real God? Like, who's the real God? Allah, or what is it? And then they messed up, right? The second time. Then
Oh,
they messed up another time. And I'm like, fuck that, Jesus. And when I said Jesus, they went in and they got it good. So I was like, I'm sticking with Jesus because he's
oh
gotten
my
me
God.
out of a lot of things. And I think I know that, okay, so the whole concept of Jesus, right, is that he's our creator's child, which
Right.
we're all children of the Most High. You know what I'm saying? We're all
Right.
the creator's children. And it just so happens that Jesus had a purpose in his life to go through and do what he had to do, and
Right.
and that's his life. But even in the Bible, it said that Jesus said that there's going to be people that come after him that are going to do bigger things than he did,
Right.
and
Right.
to not worship him, and but to believe in God and stuff
Right.
like that. So I
Right.
think we all, like, when we get on this journey, we go seeking knowledge. And
Right.
like I said in the beginning with that game, it's just there's so many religions and
Right.
everything is confused, and I look at that as like a tactic of the enemy,
Right.
because it's there's the truth and then there's the confusion.
Right. Right.
So it's just like we got to get through it. We got to find our own truth, and the only way to really know is to have life experiences,
Right.
because you could guesstimate and think all you want, but until you have those life experiences, where you like, I know that this was supernatural, like this
Right.
was on a whole other level,
Right.
then that's when you that nobody could tell you nothing. Nobody could
Right.
tell you anything because you're like, nah, I
Right.
already been through that.
Right. I tell people, people would look at me like I'm crazy. I was like, unless you've seen your mom possessed by a lower level energy, you can't tell me that this shit ain't real. Like I seen that shit too many times as a kid. I've seen her check out and someone else come in. That is something that you don't forget. That is not something that you imagine. It's not something, it's like, they've always been watching me. I do feel like, one of the worst things about it, and I tell people, and I say the same thing, where I do believe Jesus had his what he came to do. One of the things that people fail to realize is compassion was the biggest thing that he was showing people, how to
And
have
healing.
compassion and acceptance in a situation that one you can't change, and then have that compassion to the people who are angry, hurt, crazy, the people who were, we know who was doing what to him, right? And I said, unfortunately, people took that and ran with it and didn't get the message. They didn't hold that, because the very people downing someone for not believing, they're missing the message of the compassion. Because if you're compassion, you're not trying to force anyone to believe anything. You show by teaching. The biggest way to show somebody how to live is to be, right? Jesus just was. He was this person, and he was very loving, and he was very kind. And that's what he showed in no matter what he did. And I think people forget that part. Just like Buddhism, Buddha didn't start Buddhism, he just was Buddha. Afterwards, people took that and created this whole religion behind him. And people don't realize there's actually like three tiers of Buddhism, of the different types of Buddhists. That wasn't something he did. That was something that people later on took and ran with. And I think all of these religions stem from, of course, someone being that person trying to just live and show people how to live, and then people run with it afterwards and make this a whole religion. But I think people have to get out of the box. Even if you are religious, even if you do have a belief system, I feel like you should learn about other cultures. And I think it does open your eyes a lot, especially if you look at the past. One of the things I got into a lot was ancestry. So looking back at our ancestors and where we came from and where my people come from. And, Cuban, and my father's Puerto Rican, he's mixed. So I wanted to know more about where they came from, where did they hail from? How does that look? How did we get so in the Catholic faith? Because my mom and them were raised Catholic. They weren't raised, Christian. They were raised Catholic, which is very strong amongst Hispanic families. Hispanic families, the Catholic religion is very set in stone with the saints. And then it was very interesting to realize and find out that a lot of it comes from just our people having to worship in silence, and so they took the saints on so that they can still have their practice but in open, and so those saints became their gods or whoever it was that they were praying to. And it's just goes to show you that you can literally pray and hold on to any energy as long as it's in that positive way. You can hold on to whoever, whether it's a saint, whether it's an orisha, whoever, as long as you're doing that in that positive way, and you can still have that kind of support. Like, I used to think angels belonged to religion, right? Up until probably like 2 years ago, I thought angels belonged to religion. Thought you couldn't call on them unless you were religious. And then I was shown in this path, like, no, you don't have to be religious to call on angels. They're just in this realm. And that was surprising for me. Like, wait, what? Like, wait a minute. I can call an angel? Like the angel's been here? And then I actually realized that I had two very cool ass angels sitting next to me for a very long time that I didn't even realize that were next to me, that were helping me, that were guiding me for a very long time. And so, who do you go to? Who, besides God, who's your go tos of just calling in those high powered energies? Who's your go to?
um so I believe, because there's a lot of energies that people could go to, right? And you could, people sometimes think like, oh, you have some kind of brujeria on you, or you have, somebody's doing something
Right,
on you with their whoever they're doing it with, their whoever
right,
spirit they're working with. and stuff like that. So my belief is that our creator is like the most high.
Hmm.
So I believe in angels, and I believe that we're born with angels that are our guardian angels that are protect us. And I'm grateful for our angels because I've felt an angel before and I've seen an angel before.
Right.
So I'm like in awe of the angels, but I keep them in their place, kind of, because I'm like, God is the most high, and the angels are created to protect us, you know? And so I wouldn't worship an angel. I'm grateful for an angel, and I think they're awesome. They're so cool. But
Right.
as far as me making an altar or worshiping an angel, that just doesn't sit well with me. You
Right.
know, I feel like the angel and I are kind of like partners in making the world a better place, but it's not something where I should worship an angel or a saint or something like that. And Catholics do, worship saints and stuff like that. But I'm a firm believer in like not making any other altars or idols besides God, because at the end of the day, when someone's trying to attack you with their spirits or whatnot,
Mm.
God is the one that's going to protect you against any other spirit because he's the most high. And I'm sorry for using God, like our creator. I'm just
You
so
can say
used to
God.
it. I don't want to trigger anybody. Our creator, I believe, is the most high, and I believe that there's rules, like just with
Right.
our bodies. And I'm getting into this for the new year, healthier thing. And I
Right.
think about like Obamacare and all this other stuff. And I want to focus more on our creator care
Right.
because I figure something that was created has a manufactured like conditions and terms and stuff like that. And then
Right.
it depends on what we put in our bodies, how long we're gonna last.
Right.
So I've been doing a lot of studying because I developed PCOS, which is
Mhm.
polycystic ovarian syndrome, and
Yeah.
that's basically where women have issues with their menstrual cycle. Either they don't get it for a long time, or they're bleeding for months and months without
Right.
end. They get fat and facial hair, and their hormones get
Right.
all out of whack and everything. And that's all because of the food that we consume, basically. It's not something that's hereditary. It's something
Some of it.
that's in our environment. Some of it is, but mainly it's our environment.
Hmm.
Because if you eat well from when you're young, you won't really develop it, even if your mom had it.
Right. Mine's a
Um,
little bit different because I actually was diagnosed with that when I was 29, and I can tell you that I was never a fat kid, was never a fat teenager. But interesting enough, and this is why I've changed my belief systems about health. I don't believe in the Western medicine anymore. I've changed my belief system, so I'm into more holistic healing and healing. Period, because I do feel like our traumas get attached to us and it manifests in disease. I feel like our traumas, our hurts and pains manifest through disease
yes.
in us. So, I did lose my first daughter at 15, but I was never fat. I was never had acne as a teenager. My face was clear as shit.
Mhm.
But when I had my second daughter, I was almost 18. And a couple months after, the fear, because I didn't realize how I had never really dealt with my first daughter's death. Never, I didn't have counseling, didn't deal with it. So when I had my second daughter, I went through a very traumatic, it was very hard, scary, and traumatized. And then within a couple months of having her, which I was back to normal, my normal size, and then I just blew up. I just blew up out of nowhere. And all of a sudden I had all the acne and all this labs, but I went through about 10 years of them not being able to understand that I would lose a bunch of weight. And then whenever I would get to a point of someone coming into my life, like my heart space, I would blow up. It was like my body would just make this physical shell. And it was the weirdest thing because I never could place why. The doctors never could tell me why. And then when I was like 29, I think that's when I had this gynecologist and she checked something further in my labs and then was like, oh, you have PCOS and all this, that. And they would say, oh, just do this, just work out, just eat better. I would eat better. I would do whatever I'm supposed to do and it wouldn't change. And so over the course of time, I realized that going into this spiritual path, one of the messages I got early on was that I wasn't going to lose weight as fast as I wanted to because there was something that I needed to realize. And once I really realized, which wasn't until the beginning of this year, I realized that I was still holding this hurt and this pain, this trauma, and it was on me like weight. And I did a theta
Mm.
healing session, which is bringing you to a very meditative state, like right before you go into dream state. That's the theta state, which Nicole, I've had her on my show. She's a healer. She's a facilitator, got me to that state. And when I tell you how I released in there, the power of that, the energetic power that even she felt when I released in there and
Mm.
cried and just, whoo, that was like a fucking explosion. I ended up losing like that weight. I've lost 60 pounds this year.
Wow.
And yeah, I've done a little bit of exercising, but not that much. So, like, I get the terms of science because when they can't explain shit, it's, oh, you got a syndrome, oh, you got this, oh, you got a disease, now you're stuck with this. But what I tell people is when you have to get to the root cause of what is this coming up for you? There's a root cause somewhere. In our uterus, that's your chakra. And I'm into chakras, which is a Hindu practice, by the way, but I'm
Mm.
into chakras as energy. The uterus, where you're at, that sacral chakra, that's pleasure, guilt, pain. That's your creativity, it's creation. There's a
Mm.
lot of shit that goes in there. And we, even if you're not carrying this, right? We don't realize that we have this transference in the womb when we're in our mother's womb.
Mhm.
So the things, and I started to get into womb trauma. That's something that I've kind of added, right? So, and I've gotten to see, I didn't realize how bad it was for my mom. Like, you think you know what your mom went through, you think you know their life, but I've had the privilege to sit in these meditative states and see, like, even there was some roughness with her when she was pregnant with me. So again, and then we take on this shit from the prior generations also. So your grandmother, your great grandmother, that kind of passes in the womb. And the womb is supposed to be
Mhm.
sacred. So unfortunately, some women have been violated. Some women have been, and the transference goes through that through DNA. So I'm one of those believers of our DNA holds a lot of keys to our existence, and we have a lot of like doormat DNA. I could go into this shit.
Yeah,
It's like,
generational curses and stuff like that. And
right, that we don't realize, and it plays out in our health. But when we go to the doctor, unfortunately, Western medicine is about treating your symptoms, not getting to your root causes. So, like I said, I've been one of those people that deal with that. I do believe that you do need to look at what you eat, what you intake. You do need to be active. I do believe that you need to be active, but also don't skip the part of what else is triggering this within you, you know.
yeah, it's interesting that I'm in a couple of PCOS groups,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like for women, PCOS is really connected with their spiritual journey, whether
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to get pregnant or whatever they're trying to do. And for me, that's another thing that kind of gave me a testimony because there's a story where Jesus was walking and a lady wanted to see him because she was having an issue with her blood. She
Mm.
kept bleeding and she didn't know what she was doing. And I'm like, that's PCOS. Back in the Bible, PCOS, like history
Basically,
just repeats itself.
right,
So she said in her mind, if I could just touch the hem of his
right,
clothes, then I'll be healed because he was known as the healer.
right,
Right.
right,
So
right,
he's just walking through the crowd and she gets her hand in there and she touches him real quick and he stops and he's like, who touched me? And they're like, there's so many people around here. A whole bunch of people touched you. He's like, no, 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 no. Who touched me? And she was like, it was me. And he was like, go ahead, you're healed. And she was healed, So I was having issues with PCOS when I
mhm,
heard that. And I've heard that story a lot of times, but sometimes you could read something and you won't click until
right,
it's time for it to click,
right,
So that helped me a lot. And that was really also connected to with the type of person that I was dealing with.
right,
And it wasn't until my last relationship that when I got with him, my period started coming on cycle.
Right.
And it was like he kind of gave me a piece because before him, the other guys that I was dealing with, where they weren't as responsible and they were giving me stress on different levels.
Right.
Not saying that this new guy didn't stress me out because he did stress me out, but not on the levels that they stressed me out. It
Right.
wasn't that big of a deal. Like
Right.
we would argue about, oh no, put this here, oh no, put that there. Not like
Right.
cheating or anything like that. So my stress level came down. And the way our bodies work is this thing called cortisol,
Mm-hmm.
which I was also diagnosed with a lump on my adrenal gland due to
Mm-hmm.
cortisol. So when we're stressed out, our bodies produce cortisol, and then the cortisol makes our bodies be like, oh, we got to store fat. And then it
Mm-hmm.
takes down the immune system. So it kind of like lets down the walls a little bit so that it's easier for you to get sick.
Right.
So if you're constantly worried about stuff and stressed out about stuff, it's going to be easier for you to get sick.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how our body works. So if you try to, stay positive, look at the cup half full and not worry about things cuz like there's a bigger plan out there anyways, so try not to worry about, and then think about it. I also think about it as good and evil, like
Right.
there's a angel, if you will, that wants you to have a good life, and the creator created you to have a wonderful life and not to be sad, and then there's this other side where is the enemy, that
Yeah.
he wants you to be sad and sick, and he wants to steal your joy, and he doesn't want to see you happy. So you wake up in the morning and there's like I picture like arrows being shot at you, like be
Right.
mad, get mad. Don't you want to
Right.
be mad? Don't you want to get worried? Like worry about this, be mad about this. And it's a choice. Like my parents are like night and day. I love them both dearly. I have a tattoo here for my mom and a tattoo here for my father. Like I love, love, love my parents, but they're so different. That's why they
Mm.
got divorced, I guess.
Just
um
they make it.
my
Oh,
mom is like constantly making a big deal out of stuff, like making it bigger than what it. I Raquel, and you gotta do this and you gotta do that, and oh my god, and what are you gonna do it? And my father is just like, oh, it's okay, God got you. What are you gonna do? Pray about it. That's all.
right.
Just don't worry
Right.
about it. They're like, so I got a little bit of both of them, and I see both of them, and I've realized that yeah, you just gotta woosah and
Right.
like don't don't let anything steal your joy or make you worried or make you feel that negative energy. Like try to stay in a positive energy as much as
Right.
possible.
Becky says her faith healed her, not Jesus. I will tell you a story about that of not, and I don't knock Jesus because, like I say, I do feel like he had a plan. I do feel like he came to show a lot of people, some very great points in life and how to live. But we are all healers. That is something that I believe in. And I do believe that you have to understand how powerful you are. And unfortunately, we know they, when we talk about they, right? The things that they have put into place to break us down to feel you're only human. And I will tell you, when I was talking about that PCOS before I got into my spiritual path, and I used to bleed and I used to go through these crazy periods. I would bleed for months. I mean, I was losing blood, damn near anemic, going through all of these things. I got the Mirena one time.
Mm.
And, the Mirena is supposed to help you. If you guys don't know, Mirena is supposed to help you when you're going through stuff like this to regulate the period, take away the bleeding, and then get some hormones back into your body because your hormones are all over the place. And after a couple months, my body actually ejected the Mirena. Like I miscarried basically the Mirena.
Oh my god.
And at the time in 2013, I was told I had a fibroid tumor on my uterus,
Mm.
right? And then they started giving me options. Well, if it keeps growing, you might have to get it cut or blah, blah, blah. And then the option of all of a sudden I would never have any more kids. And I was like, I was sad because I had, my daughter, and I was like, I still wanted more kids, but that wasn't the plan for me, I guess.
Mm.
So going through each year till finally 2017, that same fibroid had got to 11 centimeters. It was 11 centimeters.
Jeez.
And when my body ejected the Mirena, they were like, most likely you're going to have to go through surgery. And then they were asking, do you even want kids? And at that time, I had two little grandsons. I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. Nope, I don't want any more kids. I really was like, you know what? No, I'm done. So let's just go ahead and start making the arrangements to go through surgery. So I was planning on doing surgery in 2018. And so at the end of 20 well, at the end of the summer in 2017, after I released the Marina, they were like, okay, you're going to come back in, and either we can put it back in or we could just start to get you scheduled. And so I had a little time to kind of think, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll just go and maybe try it again or whatever. When I went back into the doctor, which I actually took my time to go back in, um, I went through this moment. It was like a weekend where I actually was contracting for a whole weekend, like contractions, a whole fucking
Mm.
weekend. When I went to the doctor, they didn't do a ultrasound or anything. He just said, "Oh, your body was basically going through its own process of like cutting off the blood supply to the tumor or whatever." He was like, "But we could still get you set up and start to go through with surgery." He was like, either we could go in and we could cut the tumor off, or you could just have everything removed if you don't want to deal with it anymore. Because I was already approaching 40. I was in, my late 30s at this time. So when I did go back to the doctor and they did a ultrasound first, and the lady, this is the same lady who's done my ultrasound since 2013, right? She's been doing my ultrasounds ever since.
Mm.
She called me back in and she was like, we have to repeat your ultrasound. And I'm like, what's wrong? I started freaking out. I'm like, what's going
Mm-hmm.
on? Like, what's happening? And she's just like, no, nothing, just we got to repeat it. And she's just like, so she's doing it. And I'm scared at this point. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? They're going to tell me some crazy shit. And I'm just thinking all the worst shit. And she's like, I just had to recheck. She was like, because it's smaller. And she was just like, that has never happened. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, the doctor will talk to you more. But she was like, it kind of messed me up. She was like, because it's way smaller. So when the doctor comes in, she's just like, you're a walking miracle. She's like,
Wow.
she was like, I don't even know what to say to you. This is not something that we usually see. And I was like, okay, you going to explain it? And she was like, you're actually, it's smaller. It's back down to 4. It went down to 4 centimeters.
From 11?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Back to 4. And she was like, we've never seen this. And she was just like, it's like your body cut off that she explained it. She explained it like the doctor did. Your body cut off the blood supply to this tumor itself. And she was like, and so your body basically did the healing. And I was just like, what
Wow.
the fuck? Right. So she's like, you still could go see the doctor at this time. Cause at that point I was kind of over it. I was just like, you know what? Why not get it all removed? I'm in my late 30s, whatever. So I go see the surgeon, and the surgeon he looks at me. He says, "I don't cut anyone or open them up for 4 or 5 centimeters." He's like, "I don't open anybody up." And he was like, "I have to be honest with you." And I'm just like, "So what did they send me to you for if you don't want to do it?" And he said, "Look, you're getting older." He was like, "But let me tell you this." He said, "If there's any ounce in you that still wants a child, don't do the surgery." And he's like, "I'm a surgeon. I like to cut." He said, "But if there's any ounce inside you that still wants a child, don't do it." And I was just like, "Wait a minute. Do do I still want this chance? Do I? You know what I mean?"
Mm-hmm.
I had to sit there and I was just like, he said, "Think about it. Go home, think about it." He said, "Because your body, you know what my body did. My body basically was like healing itself." And I was just like, I went home and then I just never went back to do it. I went back and got the Mirena, and I do have the Mirena. It's been like 3 years now that I've had the Mirena. It never, came out again. And so it's just that thing. Your body, your spirit is so fucking profound that I
Mm-hmm.
believe that we just don't understand it and we don't realize how we can heal ourselves. And that for me was that testament before I even got into spirituality, that we are so strong and our body can do what it needs to do. We just have to believe and support ourselves in that way. And I was clueless. I was like, what the hell?
So did you pray? Like, were you
I
scared and did
I'm
you
not,
pray?
you know what? I'm not a prayer. I can tell you,
Mhm.
I'm not a person who prays. One of the things that I noticed that I do is I just have conversations. I just
Mhm.
have conversations with whatever is greater than myself. And even before now, like now I say words like source, creator, energy, but before I didn't have a word because I didn't believe in God, the term God. So I would just talk to whoever that energy was. And that was the person I would talk to. And I would have these conversations like if I was talking to myself, and I would just have these conversations and go back and forth about different things. And I know I was tired. I was suffering, for a couple years, especially in 2016 was probably the worst that it got, where I was bleeding for like weeks and months at a time. And it was just horrible, like almost to the fact of fainting, passing out, losing a lot of blood, clotting. So I just was tired. I was very tired and I was drained. And I just was like, I don't want to stay in this space. But for whatever reason, like I said, I have a lot of womb trauma. If you look at my background, womb trauma is what my body was clearing out. That womb trauma from my mother, from my grandmother, from my great grandmother down my line. Even my great grandmother was someone who was 13 who was passed off to a man that was 30 something.
Mm.
Like, so there's a lot of trauma that goes within our womb. And so I was clearing out a lot of that in my life. I just didn't understand it because Western medicine says your body's going through PCOS or your body's this, but we don't think about the energetic womb or how that connects through our lines in our DNA and our ancestors. And so my body was just clearing out a lot of that shit. And so that's how I look at it now.
It's amazing how our bodies work,
Hmm.
right? And I'm always amazed at our endocannabinoid system
Hmm.
and how it was just discovered in Israel not too long ago. Like, that's crazy to me. But basically, yeah, medicine just helps our symptoms, like to
Right.
suppress our symptoms. But we have a cannabinoid system, our endocannabinoid system, that is connected to all of our systems, our
Right.
circulatory system, our musculoskeletal system, all of our
Right, right,
systems. And then how it works is we have receptors that they wait for the cannabinoids, and then it heals us from the inside out. Instead of
right.
suppressing the symptoms, it heals us from the inside out. So I was thinking, like, why would our creator make us like that, like needing weed, right? Like, that's weird. But and then I started studying it, and we naturally produce cannabinoids, and it's in mother's milk.
Mm,
It's when we sing, when
mm.
we dance, runner's bliss, or when we do any joyful activities, our bodies naturally produce
It's that high, that
this
natural
thing
high.
that heals us. That heals us. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool that as
Right.
long as we're happy,
Yeah,
like singing, dancing,
yeah,
like doing stuff that's happy, we produce this thing in us that heals us,
yeah.
you know? So stop being so sad.
Right,
Like, stop
right,
letting the enemy get you mad and sad,
right.
you know?
The highest vibration is love. The highest vibration. If you can sit in that energy, oh, not much can fuck with you. You really can't. If and one of the things that I learned, and I will tell you up until this year, I learned to choose to be happy. It's a choice. You got the
It's
choice.
not easy.
And it's not because you can
It's,
choose to be fuck this, fuck that, blah, blah, blah. But it does shift your whole body. When you shift into just staying in that happiness, what you're talking about, that rush, that high, that shit is it because it is that natural state that we're supposed to be in. And it does heal. Like love heals, happiness heals, but we're so used to what we've been taught about medicine and going to the doctor. And I'm not telling anyone to stop their medicine today, not telling anyone not to go to the doctor. Do what you do, but I can tell you I'm not on any medications that I used to be on. And I used to be on a diuretic. I used to be on metformin because that's what they give you when you have
me
PCOS.
too.
Oh, take metformin. Metformin gave me a lot of other shit, fucked up my stomach.
Literally sent you to the toilet.
Yes. Really, it would fuck up my stomach and they would
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, we need to increase it." And the more you gave me, the worse my stomach get. Now, remember our chakras that are in our stomach, you got your solar plexus, which is your drive, your will to push forward, to get up and stop being lazy, is in your stomach. The bottom part to that would be the sacral, which is your creation, your creative senses, to do, to create. And so you got to look at some of these medications, how it affects you. And my stomach used to be the first thing that would be affected, which is my source of what I need to be doing and going. And then you end up getting into a very depressive state. So for me, I used to look at, like, how is this shit actually helping me? So I actually am not on any medications. I do a lot of herbal teas. I'm actually into a lot more holistic stuff and plant stuff, because I believe that that stuff came from this world. This is what our creator created for us. And I do believe in Mother Gaia, just the energy of her, of being on this planet, and taking stuff from her. But that's why I'm more into plants. Plant medicine is what I say, instead of like medicine from pharmacies, which I feel like you're getting treated for one, but now you got 20 symptoms for something else on the medicine. And we can go all day with pharmaceutical shit and the plan behind there, because there's a plan behind the pharmaceutical companies.
Which is
Uh-huh.
off
which
with their heads.
which we know it's definitely to make you sicker, because there's more money in keeping you sick versus curing you. We all know that. That's not something that's not aware. I hope you guys understand that by now.
it's it's crazy. It's crazy how all these things where people want to control the population and
Yeah.
depopulate the world, and COVID is like a man-made thing that's a chemical warfare, and people are like not really
Yeah.
realizing.
We have to be careful saying the C
Oh,
word on on here. But
oh, sorry.
yeah, you'll get dinged for stuff. I will say this though, if you look at it, I'll just say this. If you look at it, there's two sides to the whole thing. Okay. There is I think it was the intentions behind it weren't good, right? But you got to kind of look at it from another. If you look at it from a spiritual sense, people were given, and I will say, if you just look at the good side, not all the people that were lost, because of course no one's going to see the good side in that, right? But if you look at, people were given this extra time to be home with their children and their families. And a lot of people were forced to deal with their lives. The reason why so many people went into depression and the darkness, because their lives were built on a facade. They were not happy as they were pretending to be. So a lot of people got stuck with the life that they've created to see that. So that's the harsh reality of it. And there's a whole spiritual side to it that a lot of people don't want to realize. A lot of people don't want to, we want to blame the government for everything, right? We want to blame everybody else, but on the grander scale, there's two parts of it. Yes, there's the back end and the shitty side and the government side, but there's also the side of what we were pushed on our, higher ups from us. We were pushed to see our lives, to really take a look at our lives, to really look at what we had built, from our careers to our worlds, to our children, to the people we were laying down with. It was really that harsh look at reality. And a lot of people could not take that. The other part is the mask. Even though I don't like the masks, you guys, I can't stand the masks, but the mask forces you to look at people's eyes. That is the window to the soul. Okay. So when you're not seeing the pretty face, and you're not seeing the handsome face, and you're not seeing any of that, what you're left with is to look in someone's eyes. What do you see? Are you paying attention? And I feel like a lot of people miss that side, because we're so into the government and this, that, and COVID this. And I'm not saying that there isn't a back plan with that, but you got to look at the other side of it and start to pay attention, because there is I want to say, I don't want to say a good spiritual side to it, but there is this whole other sense of people to wake the fuck up. Okay. To wake up, to understand that you're given these moments to wake up and see shit for what it truly is. But that's a harsh reality that a lot of people weren't ready for. Very harsh.
Yeah,
Code red.
I agree with the pandemic having good and bad things. Like, I enjoyed having the kids on remote learning,
Right.
because I kind of like to protect my kids and just have them closer to me, and
Right.
monitor what they're exposed to in school,
Right.
because those other bad kids in their school were starting to
Right.
expose them to certain things. So I take everything, like everything happens for a reason.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, that, some things are really sad and stuff. Um, but it's all depends on where you're at in your journey and how you look at
Right.
everything.
A lot of people were like, when I would say things, a lot of people would get mad at me because they're like, oh, your family wasn't affected. Well, I did have family who got COVID. They just didn't pass. They just didn't pass away from it. And one of the things I would tell you is one thing I personally look at death differently now. It's different for me. My journey, I had to come to terms with death, and death is a part of life. Our problem is that we don't ever want people to die. We can't wrap our minds around it. We get into a very guilty spot of how can I still be happy and live without this person, and how could this person have lost their life too young. And again, we're basing it off of what we think someone's life should be. And I always go to that with death, because we always say that person lost their life young, or this person, and there are some tragedies. Let me tell you, there are some tragedies that some people do go when they're not supposed to go because someone chose to take their life, which is a whole nother thing. But some people's journeys are short, some people's journeys are limited. And that's where we get the harsh reality to live life to the fullest every day with the people that are in our lives, because you don't know when their time is. You don't. You don't have a clock telling you, yeah, on Tuesday in 10 years, this person's going to go, or in 2 weeks, this person's going to go. So if you live your life with that, that is what death is to teach us, is that there's always this time clock, and we're always, all of us, the second you're born, you're going to die, right?
Yeah, I think if people come to terms with no one lives forever and we all gotta die one day, like they should be a little bit more at ease with everything. It's like I get it. I get the
Right.
losing somebody and going through all the feelings of being devastated,
Mhm.
and like you can't see that person or interact with that person on this
Right.
level anymore. And when my first son's father passed away, I hated God too. For
Right.
years, like maybe 10 years, I was pissed off at God. I was like, how can you let that happen to me? Like I wanted to be like a Disney princess. I said a romantic story, not a tragedy.
They were
Like
like, "You're Disney with a twist."
exactly. Exactly. I was devastated,
Right.
devastated. So I get it, but at the same time it's like we didn't come from here,
Mhm. Right.
and we're not going to stay here forever.
No.
So if you know that you know that, and you
Right.
know that no one else around you in the world is living forever, like you got a certain amount of time here,
Right.
why are you going to be so hung up on, what happened? I get it. I get it. Like I was hung up for maybe 10 years. You know what I'm saying? But then I
Plus.
had to I had to have a renewing of my mind,
Right. Right.
you know, and have like an awakening to realize like I'm not going to stay here forever. I don't want to stay here forever. Like I'm here for a purpose to do something. I got to figure that out, help where I can, and then go back home.
Right.
Like why am I going to be upset? And I try to keep that mentality, but then we all have like different personalities, right?
Oh,
We have
yeah.
another one that's like, no, you got to worry about this shit because it's important. And then sometimes I'll think like of my parents passing away,
Mhm.
and I will cry and be depressed for days
Just
thinking
the thought.
about my, yeah,
Right.
thinking about my, and crying real tears and driving and like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? And then I have to snap out of it. I'm like, they're alive.
Right.
Why am I crying? Like
Right.
I need to spend more time with them now
Right.
and get all the information I can from them now and
Right.
love them now and make memories now with them, because the reality is that my parents are not vampires. They're not going to live forever.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it's like you got to put up your big girl panties on and
Right.
realize what's really going on, instead of being like immature and, oh, why are we all gonna die? Like get over it. We're, do something with the time you got left. You know what I'm saying? Do something for your creator, like whatever it is that you signed up for.
Your
You know,
purpose. That
give your
purpose.
creator flowers now and don't wait till afterwards.
Right. Right. I do believe that a lot of times that's what really trumps people. Now, when someone passes, go through the emotions, but believe me, feel it, process it, because now you have to wrap your head around them not being in your life anymore. There's a whole process that you need to go through. Don't get me wrong, you guys. I'm not saying, oh, someone dies like, oh well, they're dead. No, you
It's
have to go
hard.
through a process because you do have to change your life now. Your life now consists without them. And if that person was someone who is very influential in your life, that's a huge shocker. That's a huge shift in your life. But don't let it devastate you to the point where you're guilty to live on. You're guilty to have fun. You're guilty to love again. You're guilty to, you know what I mean, to allow yourself to be happy again. That's where you're not seeing the point of life and death. That's where you're missing it, and you're going to this place. I want to touch a couple comments real quick because Debbie, you wanted to know how we feel about the C shot. Um, so I'll try to limit the
Think it's
terminology.
poison.
I will
My
tell you
father
this,
got it.
regardless to if you decide to get it, because for me, there is no good or bad. There's always a purpose behind it, and I can tell you personally, I don't want it. I don't want to get it. But if they made it mandatory to where I couldn't travel, I would get it. That would be like one of the reasons why I get it, because I love to travel. And you got to remember, we've been injected with a lot of shit, especially my generation who came into the generation of a lot of immunizations. Okay, so yeah, it's a little bit different. Yeah, you could look at it. I feel like anything that you put in your body, even when you eat something, right? If you take the moment when you're eating and you bless that food, you put that intention on that food, you bless everyone who touched that. You make sure that those intentions behind it go into your body and you receive it in a certain way. I feel like you can protect yourself. Okay. Everyone's very afraid of, and I'm not saying that it can't, I'm not saying it can't kill people. I'm not saying it's not poisonous. I feel like if you have to get it, because a lot of people are losing their fucking jobs out here, okay? A lot of people can't provide for their families. So I feel like if you are faced with where you have to get it, right? And I have seen some people get it already. And there's some people, I have a best friend who had to get it. She works in healthcare to keep her job. That's one of the things that requirements that she had to do. I feel like you have to come in it. Don't come in it with fear. Don't come in it with, oh my God, it's fucking up my body. I feel like you have to come to terms with where you're at in your life. If you're really against it, don't fucking get it. If you're really scared, don't do it. Like you got to make those decisions, but there are consequences to it, regardless, on each end, whether you don't or whether you do.
So my thoughts on that. My father got it. My mom didn't get it. Again, black and white, right? So my brother also got it, and he tested positive a couple times, regardless that he
Right.
has the shot. And then I think about when it first came out, the Johnson & Johnson one was having a
Right.
lot of bad repercussions, and I've heard that that company is is run by Satan worshippers.
Yeah, some crazy shit. Was
So
the same company that years ago came out with they found like embalming fluid in the baby products.
yeah. So there's companies like that one. I heard Procter and Gamble, they're Satan worshippers. And if there's a whole satanic calendar where it
Mm,
has days throughout the year where they like target certain sexes, certain ages, like female 3 to
right.
18, and do certain things to them and stuff like that. So these people do exist. You
Oh
know what I'm
yeah.
saying? And one thing that I did say I want to do, and I'm procrastinating, I'm gonna print that out. And then on those days I was gonna like pray and meditate and kind of come against those negative things that people are doing, because it's real. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And it's something that I'm really passionate about, because if I can use my voice for anything, it would be that, because
Right.
it's something that I could just do like right here out of the comforts of my own home, and it's
Right.
helping the world. But back to the vaccine, I personally don't feel comfortable with it, but I do believe that it's all in your beliefs and everything like that, and it's up to the higher power of what's
Right.
gonna happen with your life. But when I just think about it, like, and I think about it logically, it doesn't make sense to me. Another thing is that, like here in Chicago, they were trying to mandate the police officers to all get it, and
Right.
they kind of fought it, and they they decided not to mandate that. But
Right.
then in factories, they're firing people for not getting it. So
Right.
it's not fair. You know, you're not pushing it on the police officers, but you're pushing it on the factory workers. You're not
Right.
pushing it on Congress, but you're pushing it. You know, you can't travel and stuff like that. And uh, it says it in the word, you know, in the Bible. It says something like this is going to happen. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
they say that this vaccine has like a DNA changing thing and like a chip in it or whatever, like some kind of like
You gotta
some.
think anything that you put into your body that wasn't from your body is going to alter your body and
Mm-hmm,
alter, especially something injected into your bloodstream or your just in your body. You got to remember that. That's a no-brainer, right?
mm-hmm,
You can't think that, oh, I'm gonna go get this vaccine and it's not gonna do something to you. I can tell you I was in healthcare for almost 11 years. That was my career before I went into my spiritual career, right? And I did retire in 2020. I actually retired from the healthcare because we were just going into COVID and I was over it. I was over it, didn't like what was happening, and I didn't want to be a part of it. So I went ahead and resigned and decided to stand in my power. And that's the choice that I made to come over here to the spiritual world and do my thing over here and leave healthcare. But one of the things I can tell you is from the first year, because the flu shot was something we had to get. Like they would push it on us. And every year that I got that flu shot, it never failed. Every year I was sick as fuck. Every year I was sick. I had the flu. And me and someone very close to me, we always talk about it in 2018. I feel like we both had COVID. Of course, COVID wasn't a thing at the end of 2018. Well, so they say. I do feel like, again, this is something that was already here. But of course, later on, then they put a name on it and then it's out there. And I think it was already here circulating. I think it was already a thing. Um, so you have to make these choices for your life. I don't think anyone is forced because I feel like at the end of the day, you may not like the choice in front of you. And I always say that, right? You may not like that choice that, hey, I got to leave my job or I continue to make that money. But let me tell you, our life is filled with choices like that. I'm not going to say someone's greedy because they want to pay their bills. But if someone is telling you to keep your job, you got to get this, that, and the third. And you're like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and get it, even though I know to the core of me not to get it, then that's a choice that you're making. We can sit and say it's being forced, but you don't have to stay there. You really don't at the end of the day. You can be like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm gonna go somewhere else and trust in the fact that you will be okay. But people don't have that trust. So
right, because right next door to Illinois is Indiana,
mhm,
and in Chicago we have to wear masks everywhere we go, and Indiana they don't have to wear any masks and it's not a big deal.
right,
So it just doesn't sit well that they're like mandating certain
right,
people and not other people.
right.
It's like it doesn't make sense to me.
Right. And some of the states are just like, oh, we don't care. And then some states it's like, no, you can't walk anywhere.
Hmm.
Like for my birthday, I went to Louisiana and I actually could not get into a lot of the restaurants in the French Quarter because I didn't have a Vax card. And I felt so discriminated against. Like, what
It's
do you mean I can't come
it's
in? You know what I mean?
wrong.
Like, what do you mean I can't sit in here? You guys come in here, take off your masks, and you're breathing all over everyone. But because I don't have a vax card, I can't come in. And I'm like, but you guys are outside walking around amongst the unvaccinated. Then you're really
It
this.
doesn't make any sense.
It's just fucking. It is for me. I think it's the craziest thing, but you see it happening. So again, me personally, I don't feel like I want the shot. I'm not into the shot. I feel like you really have to look at your life and you have to make your decisions on what you wanted and what's the possibility. Me personally, I feel like I'm strong enough in my body to where my body will fight off anything. I've been very healthy pretty much my whole life. I've been just my body is something that my body does its own kind of regeneration and healing. So I believe in that part of my spirit and that creator energy with myself. So me personally, I'm like, fuck all that. I'm not getting all that, especially if I don't have to. And like you would really have to tell me like if I couldn't like travel because I do want to go outside the country, that would be probably my only where I would have to make that decision where I would want to, because then that's like I'm limited on what I can do. But other than that,
I don't like that either, because it's like we have a ultimatum almost. Like, if you want
Right,
to fly, if you
right,
want to travel, you got to get this. It's
right.
like, no,
And it
you're not
sucks.
gonna get me like that. Like,
It sucks.
you
The
guys got
only
to
way
get that
things
together.
change is if we all come together and say no. That's the biggest thing. People, it's like we live in a capitalist society, which that means pharmaceuticals is up there on the top of the food chain, right? So they're going to be pushing things. Why? Because it makes them billions of fucking dollars at the end of the day, right?
Hmm.
Which is all imaginary money at the end of the day. So I don't even know why they do it, because it's all imaginary. None of this shit exists. Spirit is all in my
The
ear. So
Matrix.
spirits in my ear. So we have to be careful of what I'm saying. So um
Crazy, right?
so just remember that all right, I gotta okay. So just remember, at the end of the day, you have to remember why you're choosing something, right? If we were to group together and say enough is enough, we'd be able to make great change. But because there's so many people who are still living in fear, right? Living in fear. We just say this is what it is, and we're just going to deal with it, and we don't. You know, one of the things that's on the news, and not on the news. Matter of fact, let's say not on the news right now. In India, the farmers protested, and if you look it up, just Google it and see that how many farmers came together and marched and protested, and they got what they wanted. Just Google that and take a look at it. It takes everyone to come together and say enough is enough. There is more of us. If we decided to stand up and say enough is enough, we would definitely make some changes. But not enough people are willing to go against what's in place because of fear. And that's what exactly that's the term where they call people sheep. A lot of people would just love to sit and complain versus actually take that charge. And so people like us are using our platform to bring noise and to bring information and talk about these things, right?
Yeah, I think it's fear, and then not having enough, information, and being kind of lazy, or thinking, oh, what can I do? Not, I don't have time to go protest. Or
Right,
I'm so busy and this and that. But it says where two or more are gathered in meditation, you
right,
know, our creator is there. So if we were to just take the time to, like, join hands, even virtually or whatever,
right,
and meditate on a solution for this, we will all be amazed by, like, because I believe that the spiritual level controls the physical
right,
world, right? So we don't even have to go anywhere or do anything. We just got to
right,
connect on a spiritual level and agree and come
right,
together, and then watch the creator do the magic.
right. And
Because
that,
I've
Becky,
managed.
I'm only one person. That is the prime example of what people fall into, that I'm only one person, and you'll be surprised at what one person can do. What one person's energy can do. And a lot of people get scared because in history, those one person would get murdered or shot. Let's be real. Like they would get their life taken away, right? They would be making noise against what it is. But nowadays it's different. We have our cell phones at our hands these days. It's different time. It's a different place, right?
We could connect together so fast if we wanted to. Like,
Hmm.
it's so awesome. It's awesome. I was gonna say something and I totally forgot.
Yeah. Just if you don't let your mind overthink or over worry about it. That's what sit in that meditative state and ask yourself, is this something that I need to get? Because I can tell you, even when C was coming in, we'll call it C, right? When it was coming in, spirit kept telling me I'm okay. Spirit kept telling me not to worry about it. And I can tell you, I was all over. I was driving all over. I drove to Pennsylvania. I drove to Colorado. I stopped at many gas stations along the way. And this year, drove to Arizona. I've driven to Louisiana. I've actually been to Colorado. I've been to a couple places. I've went back to Pennsylvania this past year. You gotta listen to spirit. You gotta your creator spirit, Allah, whoever it is that you connect to. You have got to listen to that, because that is going to tell you, are you good or not? You're going to get that urge like, no, I'm not good. Or you're going to get that urge that, okay, I'm good. And if you believe in that and don't let that fear, because fear is a low vibration. We just talked about that, right?
She was
Happiness
a
and joy
liar.
keeps you what?
Mm-hmm.
Fear and worry keep you at a low vibration. Guess who's at the lower vibration? Not the nice people. Okay.
Exactly. It keeps
Yeah.
you stuck.
And people always ask that. How do I raise my vibration? Be happy. Choose to fucking be happy. Choose not to worry. Choose not to get in that lack energy. That's the game changer. Because
And
even in
giving.
gratitude is everything too, because we did a show on that, living in gratitude. Because people don't realize the more you give, the more you get, which is
Hmm.
like you reap what
Allah.
you sow, kind of, right? Like you give what you get. But just choosing to be happy, you guys, is a game changer for you.
Yeah, and it's very much easier said than done, especially if you have kids.
Oh yeah.
And the moment you get up, it's like crying and you're getting pulled everywhere. It's very easy to get frustrated and start yelling and like, hurry up and do this and do that.
Right.
And so you just got to check yourself. I like to have like a 90-second rule, like be mad for 90 seconds and let the shit go. Because if not, you harp on it, and then a
Right.
little thing will ruin your whole day, and it'll
Right.
stop you from being productive. It'll stop you from having creative thoughts, because
Right.
all you're focused on is what happened. And
Right.
you
Right.
know you got to let it go and move on.
Right. Choose to be, that saying is, choose to be the change you want to see in this world. And that goes from your families, that goes from your work, that goes everywhere, that you make sure that you're the energy that shifts the room in a good aspect. There's so many negative people. Why choose to be negative too?
And life is like a test. You're constantly being tested. Like, are you gonna let this get to you? Are you gonna let this raise your cortisol levels?
Right.
Or are you gonna be happy and heal yourself? It's a choice.
Right.
Like
Right.
anything that's thrown at you, you have a choice on how you're gonna react to it. Are you gonna have a happy reaction? And are you
Right.
gonna produce those natural cannabinoids that heal you? Or are
Right.
you gonna have a mad reaction for a long period of time and just tear down yourself from the inside out? It's your
Right.
choice what you want to do. And if you kind of look at it that way, when things come and get thrown at you, you kind of look at it like, oh, this is a test. Like, I'm gonna block that,
Right.
I'm gonna block this, and it kind of helps you along the way. And I wanted to say something else about praying, because I have like really good stories about that.
Mm.
And I'll go back to the marijuana, because this whole cannabinoid thing, right? And I love weed. Side note, I love weed. Sorry. Um, so once upon a time, I was in court against my third baby daddy because he was trying to take my daughter away from me.
Mm.
And he kept on saying that I would smoke weed, right? And it was to the point where they wanted to test me. And I was like, oh, Lord Jesus. Like, I know I self medicated with weed and I had the cortisone thing. So the weed was helping me de stress, or else, my cortisol levels would be higher than what
Right.
they were. So I knew that I was doing it for a good cause, and I didn't have any, bad vibes about it. So I prayed about it.
Right.
And the first time I kind of spent the courts, and I was like, I don't have the money to take the test. I need a continuance, right? That's the famous line in court. Continuance. If you continue, they get tired and they let it go. Side note. um, so then I started praying about it, and like, no, but really, really praying, because this was about my daughter. Like, if
Right.
I take this test and they find out that I'm positive for weed, they're gonna take my daughter.
Right.
So it came from a point of like emotion, and everything in my soul was dedicated to, when I prayed about this. And I'm like, Lord, please, like, I need weed. Weed helps me. Like, and this was before the whole
Right.
cannabinoid system came out, and it was a thing, and CBD was a thing. This is before all that. So I was just praying real hard, right? I'm like, dude, I don't know how you're gonna do it, but I need you to do it, so that I don't have issues with this. And
Right.
by
Right.
the next time that we went around, it was like 3-4 months down the line, weed was legal. And she couldn't even tell me to get tested anymore.
Right.
I was
Right.
like, and I got full custody. Like, I got everything that I wanted. The desires of my heart, I got them. I had
Right.
full control. And I was like, I walked from the train, from getting out of downtown, I walked all the way home
Right.
with a smile on my face. It took me like 45 minutes to
Right.
walk home, and I had a smile on my face the whole time. Like, oh my God, weed is legal, and I got my baby. That's awesome.
One and you guys, if you do your research on the legalization or when they made it illegal, there's a whole back end story about that of why the government did that. We won't kind of go into that because that's a whole nother rabbit hole of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
But we all know it's a plant. It comes from this world. We all know, it's kind of like, all right. So there we already know that it's a bunch of bullshit of why, because no one is out there murdering who's high. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think there's one person who's damn high on weed that's out there doing shit. I've
No.
never had that experience high. I've always been super fucking mellow. Never wanted to go out and go get crazy. Always was like very mellow. So I doubt that is an issue. But we all know the back end. Divergent. I wanted to touch your question real quick. Well, not really a question, but just kind of touch it. It says, "Does my PTSD keep me at a lower vibration? I try my best to be positive, but some days I am like a lead balloon." I'll answer that, Raquel. If you have something to say about that, I will answer that because I do believe it does.
Yeah, like anything, like I have PTSD around, I used to have it around death and stuff, but not so much now. But now I have it around guns because I've had a gun pointed at my head twice. Like,
Mm,
and they were like, "Bitch, I'm gonna kill you," and I thought I was gonna die. So even, and now everybody's getting guns to protect themselves
right,
against doomsday or whatever. So it's
right,
around a lot now, and I get really anxious or anxiety around, even if I'm like FaceTiming someone and they show me like, "Oh, look at what I got," I'm like, "Put it away, I don't want to see it."
right,
but
right.
but then I kind of snap into it again, and I'm just like, you got to kind of like breathe and just know you went through that experience for a reason, to learn. You're okay,
Right.
and everything's gonna be okay. Like, it's hard, it's easier said than done, because you do get triggered by that. I don't think that's ever gonna go away, because it's more like of a reminder that reminds you, like, oh, that happened with this
Right.
situation, that happened. But then you gotta like kind of like let it go.
Mm.
I
I would
wish.
say, I think PTSD, trauma, anything like that, that's not easy to work with. We all know that, especially if you've dealt with it, you've dealt with certain situations, it's not easy to ever be done with it. Cause I really don't believe you'll ever be done with it. It happened, it's there. You just find ways to cope and get some type of normalcy to your life because it's a traumatic event that happened. After that event, it's kind of hard to get to some type of normal. So you got to create your new normal, right? But I feel like it's how long do you stay in those episodes? The biggest thing is to understand, you understand what it is, you understand that you're having this moment, you find ways to deal and cope through these moments, and then you come back to, okay, let me get back to an energy of happiness because those trauma, unfortunately, and you guys know, I'm not really with the Western medical, and no, I don't believe, not that I don't believe in therapy or traditional psychiatric help. I just think it's with everything else that it's not really there to help you. It's more of a hindrance. Personally, I didn't get help in any of those traditional senses. So I do feel like we're still not treating the problem. So again, if you go back to what is the core root problem to why you're getting triggered, because when you finally get to a place of true healing, you don't have those triggers anymore. You don't have that where it's setting you off in a place where you need to run or you need to hide away or you're breaking down. So if you do find that you are, like I would tell you, um, there was a point where I would see people with their babies, and that would be heartbreaking for me. Not that it was hard to be happy for someone who was having a baby when I lost my first child. It was very hard to look at someone and be congratulations without feeling the pain and anguish of my loss. Right. And so there was this point of not even wanting to see people pregnant, not even wanting to see people, and not even wanting to be there, which it was hard. It was hard not to be there for certain people and not to show that kind of level of excitement for them. So I feel like you have to be able to work through that stuff. You got to get to a point where you work through it and you let it go. One, because if you're still getting triggered through other people, there's something in the core of you that is unhealed. Does that make sense? So when we look at healing, I feel like, yes, the memories will always be there. Yes, you will always have that event that happened in your life. Just like if you're raped, that's something that stays with you, right? That's something that hits you and it hurts you on so many levels, which I have been raped before in my life.
Me
But
too.
you know, and try not to let it fuck with you on your intimate levels with someone is a whole other way to try to work through this, right? So again, it's pushing yourself to work through it to where you can then get to a point where you can enjoy yourself and have those relationships. Again, it's something you got to work through, but yes, it will keep you in a lower vibration. I can tell you, yes, that shit has kept me in a lower vibration and sad and depressed, and it keeps you in this space of trauma. Trauma is a low vibration. It's a place where you're vulnerable. You're vulnerable for lower energies to come and fuck with you more. Okay. You just got to remember that. So every day that you get up, push to get back into a happy space, despite what happened to you, despite the trauma behind it, beside that it hurt. We all know these situations hurt. But if you can pick yourself up and find a way to get an outlet, write it, talk about it, something to get it out, you can change that dynamic. So it's no longer that trauma that you're dealing with. Now you're a spokesperson for other people, maybe. Now you're helping somebody with that information. And I believe through what our experiences are, if we choose to take those and start to help people, having these talks or just bringing it to the table, I feel like it's a game changer for your life. And I just barely started to talk about my rape and molestation in 2019. I kept all that shit bottled up inside for years, decades. And it was just recently that I decided that I was going to start to talk about it, that I was going to be open about it, that I wasn't going to be embarrassed about it, that I wasn't going to even be open with any partners that came into my life, that I would not hide that part of me because I knew that it was something that would affect me anyway. It would affect our relationship. It would affect our intimacy. And so I decided to be vocal about it and just be like, let me put it on the table now, you know?
Yeah, being raped is like a whole other thing. Unfortunately, I've had my experience with that. But what helps me, like, I believe that as a person thinks, so they live. So
Right.
what helps me kind of cope is thinking of life as a game almost, right? And I mean not PCOS, PTSD is thrown at us and connected with fear,
Yeah.
you know? And I've realized on smaller levels that fear will stop you from elevating. It'll stop you from even trying to do anything. Like
Right.
it like paralyzes you and it keeps you
Mhm.
stuck
Right.
in a stage where you could see, what you want up here, but it's like you can't get to it. So if we look at it like a game and like life experiences happen and we get scared, but we really have to push through those fears and get courageous, like tap into your inner god or goddess, you know what I'm
Right.
saying, and know that you got this. Like you could really kick ass if you really wanted to,
Right.
you know what I'm saying. And if you know that, then, and it helped me just with like little things, like I would be scared, to go on a live or something, and then I would go on a live and I'd be like, oh, it wasn't that bad, now I feel comfortable to do it again. And it didn't look that good, but now I know what I could tweak to do it. Or when I do YouTube videos, I was like imposter syndrome or feeling like I'm not good enough, or what am I doing, like
Mhm.
people are gonna laugh at me or whatever.
Right.
But then once you just throw yourself out there and do it, you're like, it's not that bad, and it's the same kind
Mhm.
of thing with, but it's a little bit harder with PTSD because you got that thing that tells you that it's in your brain, like, don't do that, you got
Right.
hurt last time you did that, or remember that pain, and you get a fear of the pain, and you don't even want to deal with anybody that looks like a certain way, or you
Right.
want to just seclude yourself, and but you're just putting yourself in a box. And sometimes we got to get out of our comfort zone in order to elevate. I think we always have to like get out of our comfort zone, and fighting PTSD is one of those things. And then sometimes when you have a big purpose in your life, I feel like the enemy will put like really hard things on you and put PTSD on you to keep you down and keep you stuck, as long as possible. So the faster we
Definitely.
get out of it, the faster we elevate. And if we look at it
Um,
as a game, like a game of life, it's like you don't get too attached to the all the bad stuff around you. You kind of look at it from outside looking in, like, oh, that was an arrow that was shot at me. Now it took me
right,
5 years to get out of that depression. Or for me, it took me 10 years to get out of the depression with my baby daddy. But I don't want that to happen when my parents pass away. I don't want to be depressed 10 years when they
right,
pass away. You know what I'm
right,
saying? I want to be strong enough and tap into my old experiences and everything I've learned throughout the years to be like, okay, I'm not going to let myself get depressed for 10 years when my parents pass away. Like, I'm going to prepare myself for this. I knew this was going to come. And sometimes we don't know it's going to
right,
come, but my
right,
whole thing is like to not get stuck in that tactic of the enemy, if you will. You know what I'm saying? To
right,
overcome that.
right. I think at the end of the day, it's that basic thing of you shit is going to happen and it can happen, right? It's not about why did it happen to me because that's something that I had to work through. The why me's, right? That's the victim mode. Why me? Why did this happen to me? It's not about why. It's about it happened. Now how do I move forward with what happened to me? How do I choose to move forward? You can choose to be shitty, you can choose to take it out on others, or you can choose to say, you know what, this was unfortunate, and I know now some red flags, and I know some signs, and I know to trust my gut now, because my gut was telling me, because normally what happens, right? Our gut's telling us don't, and we do, and then boom, something happens, right? And a lot of shit you have to get through the guilt, because there's a lot of guilt with a lot of these situations. What did I do? Did I make this happen? Am I the cause? Now, Divergent, I did want to um, just kind of hit what you said, because a lot of it is the yelling, the triggers of the yelling, because you were abused as a child. I can tell you, I grew up in a very violent home, so my parents were always fighting, arguing, even to the point where I remember being 5, coming out, and my dad would be hitting my mom, and we'd be trying to pull my dad off my mom, kind of thing. So I understand that level of anxiety as a child, because the people, your parents don't realize what type of anxiety that builds in you as a child. And I remember every time someone arguing, I would get very anxious, no matter what was going on. And people know me, like in my younger years, people know me as a fighter, but I was never a fighter because I wanted to be. I was a fighter because I had to be. There's a big difference. I never was out there because I wanted to fight. It was like I had to fight, right? So whenever there would be a situation coming up where I knew here we go, I would get very anxious, and there would be this whole internal shit going on where I would be breaking down, but you could never tell because I had a very good poker face. You couldn't tell what was going on inside me. So I feel like one of the things I can tell you that's helped me with my anxiety period is meditation. Hands down, meditation has been one of the things that has helped me where I'm not an anxious person in life. Because you develop the worrying, you develop the anxiety, what's coming next. When someone's mad, what's going to happen? Is someone going to fight? And people are arguing, what's going to happen next? Is someone going to shoot? Because I'm from the hood, like there's a whole different, kind of background that comes to that. I was a child who gunshots, we jumped on the floor. That was normal. Like that was kind of the normal background, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you grow up with a lot of this shit, people don't realize that you grow up with this very high level of fucking anxiety. You're always afraid of what's coming next. You're always afraid of what the fuck is going to happen. Biggest thing you have to remember is as an adult, now you have the choice to change your life. As an adult, you choose what's around you. You can choose not to deal with people. You don't, and the other thing about that is understanding that most of us, even myself, lived in survival mode. We were in survival mode. We weren't thriving in life. We were surviving. And to live a happy, joyous life, you have to switch out of survival mode. You have to get out of that mode. You no longer need to survive. Because if you live in survival mode, you will never be happy. You will always be on the alert, on the go, waiting for some shit to happen, waiting to defend yourself, waiting for some shit to happen.
I feel sorry for people like that. I'm like,
And I used to be that person, just surviving. And then it clicked. Coming into my spiritual path, where I really have this huge shift for me, I realized that I was just in that mode, surviving. I was surviving day to day. And I was not allowing myself to live, to be in this where I could receive joy, receive this blessing, receive this happiness, receive this love. And you have to start to tell yourself, it's time to switch over. It's time to be happy. It's time to, regardless, because if you take on the problems of the world, you will fucking stay in that misery. You will stay in that anxiety. You will stay in that pain. So there has to be a shift to say, no, I want to try happiness now. I've tried this other shit, right? Been sitting in this shit for a very long time. Let's shift over here. Let me see what happiness feels like. Let me see what just smiling feels like. Huge difference. Huge difference. And I want to tell you, if you want to work more with me on meditation, you guys know I do meditation, okay, guided meditation. One of the things I'm going to tell you is stop thinking meditation is where you need to shut off your brain. Your brain is doing what it was constructed to do, which is think and have thoughts, process, okay? Stop trying to force your brains to do what it's not supposed to do. Meditation is a state. So when you shift into meditation, your brain is still doing what it does, but your spirit shifts into the meditative state. That's what you have to remember. You're kind of separating yourself from the body, the physical body, and allowing your spirit to get in that state with creator, whoever it is that you connect with, which is a totally different state of being. Okay. Let your mind do what it does. That's the purpose of it. You're going to get messages. If you're always trying to cut off your brain, you cut off the messages that are coming through. So instead of overly processing, I can't turn my brain off, just sit. The biggest thing that people don't want to do is because you don't want to sit with yourself. You don't want to hear what's coming out. You don't want to hear what's being told to you, even though it's in your voice. This is your messages coming through. So just take that moment to hear what the fuck is being said. Most people don't want to. So it's like, oh my God, I can't. I keep thinking about everything. Take a note of what's coming up for you. That's how you become aware of your energy. So just remember, don't stop trying to shut off your brain. Your brain is doing what it's supposed to do. That's what it was created for, to think.
so for me, when I was being enlightened and I almost went into the mental hospital, there was a lot of times where I felt really confused all around the topic of spirituality and
Right,
everything that I was going through. And I just didn't know what to think. And I know I wanted to sit there and, meditate or pray, but I didn't know what to say.
right,
So I would say hallelujah. And I even got it tattooed on me because of just the miracle and the experience that I've had with just saying that. Because it
right,
says that the angels sing hallelujah in heaven. So I was like, okay, if the angels say it, then I'm gonna say it. And so I would just sit there and be like, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
right,
And it kind of helps you to block everything else out of your mind because you can't talk and really think of other things too much, especially if you're trying to meditate.
right,
It's easier to hallelujah, hallelujah, and just thinking, and it kind of just comes in as like a download. Like
right,
when you open, it's something that happens when you worship the creator. Like if you're open to worshiping idols and saints and stuff like that, be open to worshiping the creator, and it's
right,
something that happens when we do that. There's power in that. That's what I believe. That's what
right,
I
right,
know because at one point uh I felt like everybody was coming against me, my family and everything, and I was, going through a mental thing, and I was really confused and I was crying, and I was like, God, I need something to make me smile. Like I can't find a happy place right now. I'm in a really dark place and I cannot find a reason to smile. So I just sat in the bathroom and hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. And after like a minute, my phone dings and I get a picture of my daughter who was with her grandmother on her very first airplane ride, and they let her sit in the cockpit with
oh,
and take a picture like she was a pilot.
oh,
So right when I was saying hallelujah, that picture came in and I instantly smiled. And all I was thinking about was like, I need something to make me smile,
Right,
God. I
right,
need,
right,
please send me something. And like that,
right.
so it's really cool how when you tap in and you're connected with your heart space, like your emotions, your intentions, and the creator, and how everything just lines up, and then the spiritual world takes over the physical world, and you're like, whoa, that's some supernatural shit that I
It
just
is
tapped into.
powerful, and it's
Mhm.
powerful. Divergent, you're saying, falling asleep. Okay, so let me just tell you, I would say positioning. If you're falling asleep in meditation, if you're like laying down, especially, but position, there are certain positions. Make sure that you're sitting nice and straight, but relaxed. And if you're falling asleep, do know that you're tired. There- it's not that hard. You're tired. Get some fucking rest, okay? Try not to do meditation when you're tired. It just really try to do it when you first get up, or do it when you're awake. Because if you notice that every time you're meditating that you're asleep, that means your body needs rest. It's that simple. The other part I'm going to tell you is your breath work. Like, let's say you don't have a word. Using a word that's another technique of meditation, of having that word that you keep going back to, right? Breath work. Think about your breathing. You guys know, when I do the meditation Mondays for you guys, what do? We sit and we do the breath. Breathe in, and you say that as you're doing it. Concentrate on that. You just have to get your way of doing it. There's so many different ways. Look it up. Do some type of learning. Go and research it. There's several different ways that you can do it. Find what works for you. But the biggest thing is stop giving up. Oh, I can't do it. I give up. Oh, it doesn't work for me. I give up, because then you just never get to the next place. You never get to your next step. No two people meditate the same way, right? So you have to find what works for you. But I can tell you, with anxiety, one of the things that have worked for me is meditation. That's been one of the key factors to rid myself of being an anxious person, is meditate. The other part is letting go, surrender. That word that we don't really like, that surrender to everything that's going on. What is most thing that keeps you anxious, worried, overthinking? Okay. Those are the things that you got to let go. And that thing of let go, give it to God, or give it to spirit, give it to creator, is fucking dead on. You have to let go and stop worrying about shit all day long. Because all you do, again, is bring lack into your life. I don't have enough. I'm worried. I'm not going to have enough. I'm worried. And so then now you don't have enough. You really do have to switch that.
What helps me deal with anxiety is, I heard, like, when you're anxious about something in the past, you're living in the past,
Right.
right? When you're anxious about something in the future, you're living in the future.
Right.
So why don't you just live in the now,
Right.
And I know it's easier said than done, but if you kind of think about that, like, why are you worrying about what happened 10 years ago, or last week? Like, it's not
Right.
relevant anymore. Why are you worried about what's going to happen in the future? You don't know what's going to happen in the future for real,
Right.
so just live in the now and relax. Simple, right?
Right. I would say just divergent, try different things. If breathing, try, and I don't meditate the same every time I meditate. Because you really have to, like, sometimes I meditate for downloads. There's a difference. So there's my meditation where I'm actually receiving. My palms are up, I'm receiving from the universe, however you want to look at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Receiving those downloads. Then there's other times where I'm just trying to get to a place of calmness and center myself, grounding, right? I'm grounding. Sometimes I do a technique where I'm grounding with Mother Gaia, right? That's another one I do. Sometimes I'm just focusing on my breath to release, because if you notice, your breath work will release energy from you very strongly, right? So it just depends what you're going through, what mode you're in. Um,
Yeah,
but
I
that
think you can't
is in
just
the
sit
present.
there and close your eyes and just have a blank mind, like not have it, like just sit there and close your eyes and be like, okay, wait for something to happen. What's gonna happen? What am I like? That's not gonna work. You have to have an intention.
Intention.
And whenever I meditate or pray, there's a certain way that I do it. I always start off with giving thanks
Hmm.
and worshiping, right?
Right, right,
And then I present my request. Like, I present my request, and then I I thank him I say, whatever's your will be done. This is what I want.
Right.
Whatever's your will be done. And then I thank him, I thank our creator, and then I let it go. So
Right.
then I know that our creator wants what's best for us, no matter what we want. You know what I'm saying? So I put faith in the creator's plan. So I'm not
Mhm.
harping over, oh, am I going to get what I want? Am I going to get what, you know what I'm saying? It's just
Right.
let it go, because if you don't get what you want, it's not meant for it.
Right.
Something else is going to come. If a door closes, another one is going to open. So
Right.
just have patience.
I believe in that. Like we most of the problems that hurt us is our expectation of what life is supposed to be. That's one of the biggest things that gets us, our expectation behind what we think life is supposed to be. And that will fuck you up every time. Every time if you expect, oh, it's supposed to be like this, and I'm supposed to have this job and this career, and why is my life not happening? And then the comparison to other people's life. Well, if this person has that, why don't I have this? And those are the very two things that will always, always, always bring you to a lower vibration. One, you're unique, you're you, right? Your path is you. Your path is not going to be everybody else's path, no matter how much you want it to be other people's path. And those are some things that I had to work out myself of wondering, why me? Who would choose this? Who would choose this shit?
There's a special place for those of us who are concerned about the world and who pray for the world. I think we're given like certain platforms because we got a big heart and we want to
Right,
help, you
right,
know. So God knows our hearts, and he knows that we're going to do good things with what we're given, you
right.
know. So
I believe that. I believe you find that's when we go back to, I always tell you guys know I say this a million times. Find your purpose. Um, find your purpose in this life of whatever that is. And never think like what you're doing is too small because it's ripples. It's ripples into this world. And you touch one person that touches another person that touches 20, 50 more people that you don't even know about in the back end. And one of the things when I came in here, I used to always question, am I really helping? Am I really helping? Am I really making this difference with tarot? And spirit would keep me here like, this is where you need to be. And I would be like, why? Why tarot? Like, I'm tired of this shit. In the beginning, I'd be like, I'm tired of answering the same fucking questions. And I remember like some people would laugh at me like, okay, but you're meant to be in a place for the reasons. And now I see, it's the growing, it's bringing people in. Tarot brings people in, but the message behind what they get when they're here is priceless, right? And so that's where you have to remember, you may not realize how many people you're touching or how many lives you're changing, but just that one conversation, that one smile to a stranger in the store, that one holding the door open for someone who might have had a shitty day and you're the first person to hold the fucking door for them. You know what I mean? Like you never know your actions, and that's where gratitude comes into doing things out of your heart space and not even thinking twice. You never know, just saying hello to someone, what that does in their day. I used to be the annoying person, even though I was not a morning person. I used to go on my job like, good morning. And I would irritate the fuck out of the negative people because they would be looking like, this bitch is saying good morning again. Good morning.
why is she so happy? Right?
Even though I was not a morning person and I need to go right to the coffee station and get my coffee, but I made sure that my good morning was that high pitched good morning because no matter what, let's wake up, and I feel like you just have to choose to be the positive in your life instead of the negative. And you will touch people and you don't realize that everything that you do has that back end ripple effect. You're going to change lives with little. And what I don't want to ever refer to it as little, but what you think is a small gesture, it's huge. That dollar to that bum, you know what I mean, that just giving a pair of shoes away, cleaning out your closet, just all of this little things. You're like, how could that really help someone? You just never know the trickle effect that it can have. And I feel like I commend you, Raquel, for just taking your platforms and going with it, because you follow not only what spirit is directing you, right, and you're getting this push, but that's the heart space, following the heart space to just bring something, and you don't even think twice about it. And so boom, now you're here, you're inspiring people. Okay. You're inspiring them in the positive way, which is awesome. So I hope that you keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully we will get her on again. I do have to wrap this up. We're on here 2 hours, and I knew we were going to be on here long because we could talk all day. Thanks
There's
for
so much we didn't talk about.
I know, and we'll have to bring you back on to talk more. Divergent says, "Thanks for the advice. I have been on this journey for a while, and honestly, have came a decent way. I'm no longer angry and feel like I'm moving too slow at times." And we were just talking about that before we went live, where spirit will slow you down. And we want to be doing something. We want to be processing. We were just talking about this before we went live. And then I just went through that where it's like, I should be doing more. And spirit's like, no, we need you to do this. We need you to calm down. We need you to take a break. We need you to get some rest. And so I've been catching up on sleep and I've been reorganizing. And it's like, but I still want to do more. And so sometimes there's a purpose behind the delays. Every delay normally has a purpose, and you just have to be like, okay, I'm in this space. What do I need to be? Why do I need to be here? Like, ask those questions instead of like thinking like over processing and trying to force yourself. Just say, okay, well, why am I here? What maybe be the reason why I'm here, right?
Yeah, and when you're awake, you kind of look at the details of everything too, right? The colors around you, the words that are being said, the songs that are playing on the
Uh-huh.
radio, the things that the TV says, everything's a coincidence, and you're like, okay, I hear you, spirit. You know, it's a whole other level. It's
And it's not a
awesome.
coincidence.
No, there
I
are
don't
no
believe in any coincidences. I
there
do
are no.
believe that there's accidents, and I do believe that there's, because we have free choice in this life, and I do believe that some people in the moment can choose the wrong choice and take someone's life. Because when it comes to death and murder and stuff like that, I do believe that there are, in the split second of a choice, you can create some real damage in life. It just it is, it's a part of the life, right? But there are a lot of other things that I don't feel like are coincidence. I always feel like there's these signs, whether it's God, whether it's Allah, whether it's spirit, angels, however you look at the energy. If you pay attention, you will see the beautiful synchronicities in life, right? And you can go move forward knowing that there is this higher power, higher energy, way more intelligent than we are. Definitely not sitting up there looking at you with the judging eyes. You got to understand that. We don't understand, but I feel like people got to realize that we don't want to believe that some people can do the most craziest shit and still be forgiven, but you can. Not to say that you should go out there and do crazy shit and then ask for forgiveness, but at the end of the day, this is why we're taught not to be judgmental, right? Because if our creator can do that very thing where you can redeem yourself with your creator energy and get to that point of saving your soul, because I do believe you can save yourself. I do believe that everyone has the ability to save their own soul, and I do believe that you also can have the ability to go to the dark side, which we call the dark side, and give your soul away. I do believe that you have those abilities, but it's up to you to choose, where do you want to be. You can choose to be the light, or you can choose to be the dark. And I do believe there are people who come here because they've already sold their soul. They're already in the dark. And I think you got to understand that part too. That's where we say the enemy, right? That's where the enemy comes into it. And we say the they. When you hear the terms they, right? That's what we're talking about.
And it's funny that you say that, because even in like the religious people's eyes, they say like not everyone is the same or whatnot. But I really think like the story, I don't mean to go back to Jesus, but the story behind Jesus is like he died for everyone to be saved. It doesn't matter if you're black, white,
Right,
Israelite, this, that. It's like if you have a relationship with the creator and you seek wisdom and a relationship, like I
right,
think the biggest thing is just to talk to our creator. Like if you're gonna start anywhere, start there. Even if you're mad at him and you want to curse at him or whatever it is, like
right,
just start by talking. You know what I'm saying? And then if you believe that you're saved, there's no spirit of condemnation. That doesn't mean you go out and do whatever because
right,
Jesus died so I could do whatever. Like I could go
right,
kill somebody because Jesus died on the cross for my
right,
sins. No, God knows your heart, and only God could judge you. So it's really from the inside out. Only you and God know your
right.
thoughts, your heart, and your intention. And that's what it comes down to. That's how you tap into the spiritual world, is with your
Mhm.
mind and your soul, which is like your imagination, your intuition, all that stuff, and you just have to have have not a purpose, but have a goal. Have a goal. Want more for yourself. Put that goal in your creator's hands. Like, present that goal to your creator and be like, what do you think about this? Show me a sign of what you think about this. If I see a sign, then I know you got my back. If I don't see any sign, then I know maybe I shouldn't do that. And start there. And then you go little by little and you start manifesting and seeing supernatural things happen, and then you're just like in awe, and you have no other choice but to be like, thank you, creator. Thank you. It just comes out naturally. And then some more magic happens, because
Right.
when you start thanking and being happy, you're producing those cannabinoids and healing yourself from the inside out, physically and spiritually, both at the same time.
Right. A lot of layers to this, you guys. All right,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get into the horoscope and we're going to end the show. I want to thank Raquel, who is the creator of Life a la Roxy. Her pages and her YouTube are in the description. Should you guys want to go, and you guys should go and support her pages and support her platforms. So if you want to reach out to her, her information is in the description. Okay. So again, thank you for joining us on this morning show. I'm going to get to the horoscope. So we're going to see what